there. This is Dennis Anyone with Dennis Hensley. It's a podcast about making things up and making things happen. I love talking to creative people, and today I have 4 of them. They've all started their own businesses, and this is the holiday gift guide episode of the year. So we're going to give you some ideas for some Christmas gifts that you can get for your friends and family. The people that I have this time out are the author Eddie Shapiro, whose book, Here's to the Ladies, is perfect for the Broadway lover in your life. It's interviews with some of the great women of musical theater. We also have Patrick Marks, who started making sugar cookies during the pandemic and discovered that he's fucking awesome at it. So we're going to talk to him all about becoming a cookie mogul. We also have Dudley Beene. He's a friend of mine. He's a very creative person. He had a film that we talked about a few years ago called First Period, but he went into this business selling caftans, designing and selling caftans. His company is called Studley Duds, and we're going to talk to him about that. And finally, we have Michael DeMartino. He is the man behind Pillow Top. It's a line of pillows and other home furnishings, very queer. He's also doing wrapping paper this year, sexy stuff, fun stuff. One of his pillows, this harness pillow, was featured on the Netflix show, How to Build a Sex Room. So, come on. So we're going to talk to all 4 of those guys and give you guys some ideas for things to buy this holiday season. But before we get to the interviews, I want to remind you that this podcast, Dennis Anyone, is brought to you by Liquid Paper. No, it's not. I don't have any sponsors. But I do want to mention something that one of my past podcast guests has put out into the world. Drown Town is a dog-walking detectives mystery by Steven Silverman, who was on the podcast earlier this year with a play. So if you like mysteries, it sounds really juicy and fun. Drown Town. You can find it wherever you get your books. I also want to let you know that there are 2 ways you can support this podcast if you enjoy it. One is by going to DennisAnyone.net and leaving a tip in my virtual tip jar. Helps me cover my expenses. I really appreciate it. Or I would love it if you became a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of a group of shows under the Derek and Romaine banner. And for a monthly fee, you get my show early and all these other great queer shows. And you can learn about that at dnrstudios.com. Also, I got to get a plug in for the Mismatch game. It's coming back. It's going to be on Saturday, December 9th at 8 p.m. It's our I'll Be Homo for Christmas edition. It's at the Renberg Theater at the LA LGBT Center. Here's who's in the lineup. Dante is going to be playing Christopher Lloyd. Nadia Ginsburg is Cher. Tom Lank is Heidi Klum. And I think there might be a song there. Rebecca Cochin is Jennifer Coolidge. Nicole Parker as Celine Dion. And I think there might be a song there. And Felix Pyre as Silver Lake Santa. Very edgy. Very fun. Come celebrate with us. Tickets start at $20, and the link is on my Instagram bio. You can also go to LALGBTcenter.org and just click around on the arts and entertainment, whatever tab you can find, and you'll find it. All right, now on to the holiday gift guide, and let's get things started with the man behind the pillows, Michael DeMartino. Joining me now from Los Angeles, it's Michael DeMartino, the founder of Pillow Top, an amazing pillow shop online, and you pop up here and there. You were in Palm Springs, I saw. So right. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So you have very queer, gay, fun, sexy, stylish pillows. When did you start thinking of this idea? How did it come about?
I moved to Provincetown about 3 years ago, and I just needed a little space to just kind of sew and do my own little thing. And I found a little hole in the wall in McMillan Wharf, and I didn't realize it was in the middle of a mall. And people started to come in while I was sewing, and I said, "Oh wow, what can I do that would be quick? And I could sell some things of mine that I make. What would be quick and easy?" And pillows were the easiest thing to sell. So, and because I'm in Provincetown, I mean, it's the gay mecca of the whole world. I said, you know what? Maybe I can start illustrating things specifically queer-oriented, home decor for gay people. We put gay art all over our walls. Why not on our couches and on our beds?
I love that. So you got the space kind of as a workspace, and then you realized, this could be a retail space because people seem to be coming around. Very cool.
People kept knocking on my door and poking their head in and saying, "What do you sell?" And I'm like, So, yeah, it kind of evolved organically. It was really great.
Well, your designs are really cool. Do you do some of them have illustrations on them. How are those created?
So some of them I illustrate myself.
Right on.
Some of them old paintings of mine that I've transferred over onto fabric.
Right on.
And then a lot of the times I will hire queer artists from around the world, and they'll do like watercolor paintings or digital drawings as well. And I'll have those put onto fabrics and textiles as well.
And then you do some that aren't images, but like you do this leather pillow with a harness that got featured on Netflix's How to Build a Sex Room. How did that happen?
So, same thing. I was in that little hole in the wall, and a woman came in and she said, "Oh, can you make these in different colors, like blue leather and red leather?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "What is this for?" She said, "I can't tell you the name of it, but it could be featured on a Netflix show coming up next year." This was 2 years ago. And so that night I contacted a leather supplier, and the following morning they overnighted all of these different leathers to me, and I made, all these harnessed pillows so that they could feature them on the show. And it just kind of like a happenstance. It was so strange,
Well, the camera loves those pillows. They got a lot of love shots. They didn't say your name, but I was like, give him a plug. Like, where's the graphic? But they didn't. But they looked amazing. They did. Did people find you from that show?
People found me from the show, I think, just by typing in leather harness pillows.
Yeah.
They panned across those things quite a bit.
Oh, I'm like, they love those pillows. They're loving those pillows.
You know what it is? They are chic enough that you can have out.
Yeah.
They're not overtly sexual, but they have an edge look to them. And if you know, you know. But otherwise, they just look like chic pillows. And I think that's why they worked so well.
Yeah. Did you ever hear from the couple that got them in their dungeon? Did they ever send pictures? No.
Although other people who have ordered it from my online shop, they have sent me photos of where they put these things in their dungeons. So I've seen a bunch of things.
That must be very flattering. It must make you feel good.
It does make me feel good. Yeah. Whether it's the leather ones or the other ones, it's just nice to have your creation in someone's home. They liked it enough to support it and have it in their home. And I think that's wonderful.
I love it. That Netflix show is very engrossing. I was like, how are they going to get 8 episodes out of this idea? And I was like, oh, they're doing it. First of all, she's like the Angela Lansbury of sex designer people. It's just funny.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And you had a West Elm moment recently. Talk about that. That looked really cool.
Yeah, this year was kind of a big year for me. I was in West Elm. We did a collaboration, and I featured a bunch of mid-century designs. So it wasn't just an illustration of a sexy man. It was more illustrations of patterns, 1950s motifs and shapes and colors. And I did them in woven throws as well, and it went really well. And then about a month before that, I was in Nordstrom's for it was for gay pride in June, and that was really awesome as well. They're very supportive, and they do their damnedest to support the gay local artists. And the whole first floor was taken up by us, so that was really fantastic.
Wow, which Nordstrom? In Los Angeles?
The flagship in New York.
Oh, wow. So you get to go there and set up your shop and the whole thing.
The whole thing, yeah. And Nordstrom didn't take a dime.
Wow.
They just feature you, and they're happy to support it. And they had a whole event with people walking around with hors d'oeuvres and liquor and a DJ, and it was great. And this is the second year they've done that with me. They keep inviting me back, which is super sweet.
How fun. But then at the end, they're like, bye, it's over.
Yeah, it's over. Take your stuff. How much did you sell through?
Yeah. I love that term, sell through. Did you ever think you would be this kind of a business person? Was this something that you always wanted to do, start something of your own?
I've never considered myself a business person. I'm only just now starting to believe that I can be a business person.
Right, you're doing it.
I've always had the creative spark to want to do my own thing.
Right.
I never really felt like I fit into the world and the way it currently works.
Right.
But I've always been on the more creative side of things. And so I'm happy that I get to put something out there that people enjoy, and it's working so far.
What's the hardest part about it? What's the part where you're like, oh, this is a lot to learn?
Oh, God. Anything having to do with paperwork.
Yeah.
Taxes, paperwork. Oh, God, it's such a learning curve, especially for a person who has like a more of an artistic brain.
Yeah.
I get, cross-eyed within 30 seconds.
I relate to that. You're doing some Palm Springs themed stuff, right? Are you out there, or is it all online?
Yes, I was in a store out there called Queertique.
Nice.
And then recently I was in Ball Beachwear, which has 3 locations. The first is in Provincetown.
Right.
The second in Palm Springs. They have a massive store and it is beautiful. So if you're in Palm Springs, you should definitely check it out. And they also have a location in Fort Lauderdale, which we are about to talk about moving some pillow top merchandise into there as well.
I love that. Queertique, I don't think exists anymore.
Yeah, they closed last year.
Yeah.
Such a bummer. They had such cool things.
You want to hear a funny story about Queertique?
Yeah,
So it's like all gay entrepreneurs and artists and stuff. So I dropped off a copy of the game that I created with your friend of mine, Jeb Havens. You don't know my life there for them to consider selling it. And I followed up with an email. Never heard anything. Nothing ever happened. And then a friend of mine texted me and he goes, "Hey, I'm in Queertique and they're selling your game." They literally sold the sample that they tried to sell it. Maybe they didn't get a buyer, but I was like, I try.
That's funny.
You can't help it. You can't help it if they sell your sample. What are you going to do? So you're doing wrapping papers for the holidays. They're really sexy.
Yeah, thank you. So, I figured if someone, pillows are a hard sell. It's not the easiest thing. It's based on what the person's room looks like, what their aesthetic is. Can they even put a queer-oriented pillow out there, even if it's not overtly sexual? Do you want, a sexy man on a pillow? But I figured that even if they can't gift a pillow, maybe they can wrap it with something that's a little more unique. And so I started to design a range of different, like some are nostalgic, old-timey watercolors. Some are a little more sexy men with little mistletoes on their nipples. Some are gingerbread men who have little leather chokers on. And some of them you have to look really carefully to see how it's gay. So you can still slip it under your tree and not have too many people look at it.
Right.
But in general, I love the idea that we get to have our Christmas the way we want as well.
I love that. Did you design a bowling ball? Did I see that on your Instagram?
I did. Yeah. I worked with Tom of Finland this year.
Fun.
And, it was really
What
fun.
did you do with them?
I illustrated a bunch of a modern take on Tom of Finland.
Nice.
Guys are not quite as balloon animalish.
Right.
Now they're a little younger, maybe more of a twonk.
Yeah. I love the term twonk. Twonk is
twonk.
Yeah, it's relatively new and I like it. I'm embracing it.
A Twinkie hunk.
Yeah.
So I illustrated a bunch of black and white photos and then I had them woven into pillows and they sell them in Culture Edit here in care of Culture Edit, Tom of Finland store in Los Angeles. And, but they're my designs and I love bowling and I go every week. I'm part of the Gay Bowling League in LA.
Oh, fun. I kind of want to do that. Is it fun?
Oh my God. You should totally do that.
Okay.
I would personally love that because I would love to have friends on my team who I know and can have a blast.
I love that you made a bowling ball. Is that your bowling ball that you use?
It is my bowling ball that I use. And again, because it's the Gay Bowling League, I was like, I got to do something fun for this. So it's like
you must be the envy of the whole league. So describe for people that haven't looked at it. What does it look like?
So the bowling ball is pure black.
Yeah.
And it has an outline of a very sexy, probably late 20s guy with coiffed hair and sunglasses on and a very strong jaw and some nice lips. And it's all like just a black and white. It's called a vector image. So it's just plainly black and white, no shading. It's really beautiful. It looks like something that can come out of a comic book. And it's just his head floating in the middle of this black ball. And it's really beautiful. It's getting super scuffed up now. But
of course,
because
you're knocking down those pins.
I'm lobbing that thing.
How do you find a place that can make a custom ball like that?
Google.
There you go.
I Googled it.
It must be the envy of the whole lane. Everyone must love it.
Yeah, a lot of people love it. Yeah,
of course. Fun. I love that. What's your bestseller?
Gosh. When I first opened, I actually had painted a penis coming out of a banana.
I've seen that.
I have the painting. I'm looking at it right now. My husband's going to hand it to me. This is the painting I did.
Yeah.
like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I put it on a pillow just for the fun of it because it's Provincetown. And my mom came into the store and she's like, "Why are you selling that? No one's going to want that." It was the best seller. I could not keep it in stock. And
people love the penis, the banana penis.
And it's funny and it's novel and you get some bridesmaids,
Oh, yeah.
Bridal groups coming in and it's just funny. And I think people like that. That was the number one seller. The leather harness pillows did really, really well. And now the wrapping paper this month has gone crazy. And I'm so thrilled that people really like that kind of thing.
How can people learn about what you do? Where do they need to go?
I would say I'm most active on Instagram. They can go to the Pillow Top Shop. That's my handle on there.
And what's the website?
The website is called thepillowshop.com.
Nice. When did you know you could draw?
Oh, I've been drawing since I was maybe 8 years old. I used to draw anime characters. I used to watch Dragon Ball Z and all those, and I used to love drawing those. So I've been doing it for a long time.
And this is a mix of business and getting to exercise those muscles. It
is. And I love sewing. I used to make coats for my mom. So I get to kind of combine a bunch of worlds together. And to be able to express it to, in this queer way is also really fun because it's something that's not really out there right now. There's not much queer-oriented home decor. There really isn't. So I'm really happy to be in this realm.
Have you ever gone somewhere and seen some of your stuff and you didn't know the people really, or you didn't know they had it? Have you seen your stuff out in the wild?
I have actually. Actually, I was at my friend's birthday party 2 months ago, and people who had come over, 2 of them were like, "Oh, I bought your stuff last year," or "I have this sitting on my couch," and I had no idea. And sometimes my friends will send me photos when they go to people's houses, and they're like, "Is this your pillow?" I'm like, "Oh, it is my pillow." So I love it, and I also love when I get orders from like Australia or Germany, and I love the idea that it's all around the world and not just in America. That's really fun for me to think about,
Here's my final question. What has it meant for you in your life to have this outlet, to have started this business?
Well, like I said before, I never really felt like I fit into the world and the way the current systems work. And it always made me feel really bad. I always felt like I was failing at just life in general because I didn't fit into the mold. So to be able to express myself and have people appreciate that and be able to make a living off of it, has meant the world to me because it's not just validating, income and you can be a successful adult. It's validating who I am as a person. So I really love that.
What a great note to end on. Thank you, Michael. People need to go buy your pillows and your wrapping paper.
Oh, thank you very much for having me on the show. I love it.
Thanks again to Michael DeMartino. You can follow him on Instagram at The Pillow Top Shop or go to his website, thepillowshop.com. All right, I'm feeling very theatrical at the moment, so let's talk to Eddie Shapiro. He's the man behind the new book, Here's to the Ladies, more conversations with the women of musical theater, or conversations with more of the women. Anyway, it's his third book in this area, and he's really good at what he does at bringing these women to life and getting them to really tell their stories. So let's talk to Eddie. Joining me now from Los Angeles, it's author Eddie Shapiro. His book is perfect for the musical theater lover in your life. It's called Here's to the Ladies, Conversations with More of the Great Women of Musical Theater. This is your third big interview book. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's amazing that people are still willing to talk to me.
These actresses, these stars, well, here's what I think, because I've known you a long time, and I remember when you were first starting to undertake this project, and you were trying to get these big Broadway legends to talk to you, and then one would say yes, and then a few more would come, and it was kind of like, but now I could imagine being a Broadway actor and seeing the first book and being like, oh, how did I miss that? I got to get into this next one. So I would imagine the more of these you do, the easier it is to get the people to do it because you do such a good job and you honor their work and the conversations are so rich and interesting and respectful. Like, well, you're not out to get them.
Right. There are no gotcha questions. It is about celebrating them without being puffy or, just like, softball questions. But I mean, there's a lot unearthed, but it's not about trapping them in gossip. But I'd like to think that, like, in my fantasy, after the first one, Barbara Streisand is trying to find my number somewhere.
Yes, but I'm sure she is.
Yeah, but I don't think that's happening. But the reality is that for the first one, when I was more unknown to these people, they were sort of like, well, who the hell is this guy? And now it was much easier. And in some cases, like for the second one with Joel Grey, he was like, well, can I see the first one? And I sent him the first one, and then he called me immediately. He's like, yeah, let's do this.
Right.
So yeah, it's nice to have the calling card.
Right. So this is your third book. Who is featured in this book? Can you rattle them off? I've written some down.
Rattle them off.
Okay, rattle them off.
Barbara Cook and Faith Prince and Kelly O'Hara and Jessie Mueller and Stephanie J. Block and Carrie Butler, Tanya Pinkins, Mary Beth Peele, Judy Kuhn. One of the chapters that I'm most pleased to be able to include, there's a chapter on Marin Mazzie. And Marin Mazzie is somebody, you know, for listeners who aren't maybe as familiar with Broadway, Marin Mazzie's gone. She died. And I had asked her to do that first book, and she agreed, but our timing didn't work out. And by the time I was doing the second one, she was gone. And I was talking to the actor Norm Lewis about that and just sort of saying how sad I was not to have captured her story. And he said, do it anyway. And that kind of inspired me to think about, well, could I? And because, you know, as you know, I talk to people about their own experiences. So I was like, well, if I talk to a bunch of people she worked with and to her ex-husband, to her widower, I can get firsthand accounts. And if I ask them to just focus on not their own opinions, but what did you see? Or what did she tell you directly? Or what did you experience with her? So I can get as close to a firsthand account of, you know, as if she's telling the story. And I was really actually happy with the way that came out because I felt like it's just a strong tribute to her.
I had a friend that went to school with her when they were younger, and he was always so proud of her, and he would just talk. Yeah. And I was like, "We get it, you know, Marin Mazzie." Like, but now, you know, what a great thing that you did. Like, you honored her. I have this thought now, especially like this is the summer of the diva tours, the Taylor Swifts and the Beyoncés, and I went to see Beyonce, and I was there, and I was like, all of these people, all of this industry, and one person has got to go out there and do their thing. And I think about that in terms of Broadway performers. There's some days I don't feel like getting on Zoom. And these people go out there and do that.
8 times a week.
Yeah. I'm kind of in awe of the physical will. And I'm sure sometimes, most of the time, it's probably a joy. But you have to do it. There's nobody else that can do. I mean, there's an understudy or whatever, but it's that thing of like, I gotta deliver.
You always have to deliver, no matter what's going on, no matter what, you know, no matter what you ate that morning, no matter what you're, you know, all of that stuff. But then on top of that, and this is the part that's always, so you say it's, you know, probably a joy, and maybe it is when you're in a hit, right? When you're in a show that works. And that's a good show, then you're delivering. But what if you're in a show, as frequently happens, and I ask this question of people, like, what if you're having to sort of sell a show that you know is crap? That, like, you're doing it, and the reviews have been bad, and, you know, it may look good on paper, but it's not working out, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's open, and you know in your heart that it's not good, and the reviews have not been, and you still have to sell that crap.
Yeah.
You know, that's hard. Or when, I mean, Adrienne Warren talks in this book, you know, she was Tina in Tina, and how physically exhausting that was and how depleted that made her. Or Alice Ripley talks about in Next to Normal, the emotional toll that role took on her, and that, you know, she would essentially spend the time between performances both of them recovering in order to get there for the next performance, you know, and that's your whole life. It's just living in preparation for having to do it again the next night.
I saw Tina on tour here in LA, and I don't remember the performer that it was, but the whole company was performing as though the audience was full of agents that could make their dreams come true. They were leaving it all on the floor, every last one of them, especially the Tina. And I was like, how do they go on and do anything after that, let alone get up and do that again? The stamina, the physical demands.
Yeah, and how do you speak? I mean, the Tina, the vocal demands of that. So it's all, this is, I mean, that's what we talk about in this book, that the craft of it, the will of it, what inspires you, how, you know, and also the exhaustion, and not just the exhaustion sort of, you know, of the 8 a week, but then the exhaustion of the totality of a career, like the numbers of people who get to a point where they're kind of like, yeah, I did all of that. I did my 10 Broadway shows. Now, okay. Like, if something comes along that really piques my interest or that's really exciting, I could see myself doing it. But am I jonesing for my next, you know, what's my next one? Not necessarily. And that's also interesting.
Do you just want to play a judge on a CBS procedural, wear a robe, pound a gavel, cash a check?
Exactly.
Right?
The numbers of people who are ready for that, or for that matter, like I mentioned Judy Kuhn. Judy Kuhn is somebody who, God bless Pocahontas, because Judy Kuhn was the voice of Pocahontas, and that gave her enough money to make choices. So she kind of left the business for a while to raise her daughter until her daughter went off to college. And then when she came back to the business, she did do Fun Home on Broadway and was incredible. And she did do Fiddler on the Roof, but she's also done a ton of off-Broadway. Right now she's working at the Classic Stage Company and I Can Get It For You Wholesale. And she's fantastic in it. But it's a little theater where the paycheck is not big and the dressing rooms are shared, but she's making artistic choices now, not financial ones, because she's at the stage of her career where, she's done that. And it's lovely to be able to do that.
You've interviewed all of these Broadway legends. What is it like for you to go see them in a new show after you've interviewed them? You've been to their houses, some of them. You're like, oh yeah, she served me a ham and cheese sandwich. It was delicious. And now here she is again. Like, what is that like to know them a little bit behind the curtain and then go see them?
I love it. In fact, I'm going, this is sounding so bougie and so name droppy, so forgive me for what's about to happen, what I'm about to say. But I'm leaving for Chicago on Sunday because Faith Prince called me up a week ago just to shoot the breeze. And 12-year-old me, is dying inside that Faith Prince is just calling to say hi.
First, nobody calls anybody ever to shoot the breeze. That is not something that's done in 2023.
She's doing the new Betty Boop musical, Boop, directed by Jerry Mitchell in Chicago. And she's like, come see this. I think you should really see this. I'll get you a comp. And I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going off to Chicago. And we're getting off topic a little bit from the book, but I knew that I would be able to sort of sit on the couch and bask in the glow of all of these people. And that was, of course, a tremendous perk for a big theater geek like me. But to sort of now get to feel like, forgetting about friendship, that's a whole other thing. But for Faith Prince to be saying, come see this new piece. I'm interested in you seeing it from an artistic perspective. She talks about it as being one of the few things that she's done at this stage that feels cohesive, and she wants me to see it and to feel like, oh, right, I'm being respected as somebody who appreciates the craft. That's really rewarding to me.
You're part of this world now. I see that humble look on your face, but you are. Are there themes that emerge as you've been working on these books that you think about as maybe it wasn't on your mind at the beginning, but now you sort of think about what theater means to you, to people, why it's important, big picture things.
So many. One of them we already touched on, which is, what it actually means, what it
takes. Yeah.
Yeah. And what it costs you on all levels. But then separate from that, there are things that I hadn't really considered before I embarked on this project. One thing that is almost universal is the level of insecurity. And I never would have guessed that. I would have thought, oh, all of you people are at the top of your game. You're at the top of your career. You're not worried about your next gig, or you're not worried about whether or not you're good enough.
You've made it. Yeah.
Right. But the level of insecurity manifests differently, but the level of insecurity is huge. So that was a huge surprise. And another, thing that shouldn't have been a surprise, but I guess I hadn't really considered it as much, was the amount of responsibility that leading players take for setting the tone and leading a company and being the spokesperson and the advocate for that company. The people, so when conditions are bad backstage, or where there's bickering, or where there's not enough ventilation or whatever, the younger ensemble members count on the leading actors to be a voice that will be heard. And some people take that role, and also the morale backstage and keeping morale up for a long run. And people take that very, very seriously. And also they talk in these books about the ways it was modeled for them too. Several people talked about David Hyde Pierce, and both in Curtains and in Hello Dolly, what an amazing cheerleader he was at keeping morale up and keeping people feeling like we're in a company where we want to go to work every day.
Yeah.
We want to show up every day and do this thing. that's not something I'd ever thought about before until I started talking to these people.
I was at a musical at the Gay and Lesbian Center earlier this year called A New Brain, and it was very intimate. Like, it was kind of in the round, and it was a very small space. You could touch the actors at any given moment. And I was just struck by... Yeah, for better or worse. And I was just struck by this idea of, like, what an exercise this is. We've all agreed that we're all just going to come in here and pretend. The audience is committed to it. The cast is... We're all going to do this thing. And they're going to go balls out. Like... Just what an amazing thing it is that theater is. It just
yes, and why? And think about why, right? Because we all want to connect and we all want to feel things, and that's what you're chasing.
Yeah.
And by the way, to her credit, this goes back to the first book, but one of the things that Patti LuPone said to me.
I love when you start a sentence like that, by the way.
One of the things Patti LuPone said to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Again, to get a dustpan.
Because it also implies that there were many things, and I'm only going to give you one.
Well, but that's what the book is for,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But Patti LuPone makes the point better than I've ever heard it made, because we all get annoyed by people's audience behavior.
Sure.
By, people with their water bottles and their candy wrappers and their talking and whatever. And Patti LuPone said, we all invest so much, we on stage and you in the audience, we all invest so much in being in this world, the world of what's going on stage. And the minute that you are crinkling your water bottle, you're yanking us all back to 2023.
Yeah.
And we're all working really, really hard to buy into this conceit that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And you with the water bottle are disrupting that for everybody. And I thought, that's a really, really good, other than just sort of being irritated by the inconsiderate behavior of people, there's a reason.
Right.
We're focused.
It's a delicate trance. We're all in this delicate trance together. Don't mess it up.
Right. Exactly.
With your candy wrapper.
Right.
What have you learned about yourself through writing these books?
Oh, God. That you can put your scary fandom to good use.
Right. But they're big. They're ambitious. They're a ton of work. Like, you must be able to think, okay, I'll chip away at this. And you must be able to stay committed to something big and unwieldy.
Yeah, there's that. But in all seriousness, the thing that I learned. So Barbara Cook's chapters in this book, and the Barbara Cook chapter, that means I actually interviewed Barbara Cook for the first book, and then by the time I was ready to publish, she asked me not to include the chapter because she was writing her own autobiography. So I respected that. But now, when this new volume came out, I went to her son, because Barbara's gone, and got his permission. So I'm very happy to run the chapter. But Barbara Cook was the first person who said something to me that's a pretty important lesson from this book, or these books. I was leaving her house, and she took me by both hands, and she said, lovely words, but then she said, you're really good at this. And I am very bad at compliments. And I sort of shrugged it off and made some joke, as I typically do, because that's me. And she grabbed me hard, and she said, no, listen to me. You have to know you're really good at this. And I walked home, sort of dazed, because I'm in love with Barbara Cook, and just the experience overall that had happened was cool. But then I was like, Barbara Cook has been interviewed a bunch of times, and if she's telling me that this stands out for her as different from other interviews, I have to take that in. And the feedback that I've gotten, both from the performers and from people who read the book, is, God, people open up to you so much, and I get asked why a lot. And it's not for me to opine on why. I'm not going to go into, because it can't be objective about that. But I have learned that's a superpower. That people are willing to open up to me and willing to talk to me and consider me a good conversationalist for this kind of thing. And so that was a big thing for me to learn and say, okay. Not about getting a big ego about it, but understanding that's the strength. So, let's use that strength.
Yeah. I just know, as a friend, you make people feel safe. You can talk to you.
Well, that's a lovely thing to say.
Yeah, no, it's true. Tell people how they can get the book. What do they need to do?
Anywhere books are sold.
Right. There it is.
So, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookseller.
Yeah.
I'll even say that since it's the holiday season, for your listeners, Dennis, and people who know you, or people who want to find me on Facebook, I'm very happy to connect with people and sign books for them if they like.
Wow, look at that.
They're also in the Drama Bookshop. I just did an event at the Drama Bookshop a couple of weeks ago and signed a ton of books with some of the ladies. Yeah. So they have copies at the Drama Bookshop in New York that are signed by several of the ladies and by me.
This started as a dream, as an idea of something you wanted to do. What would you say to somebody that has an idea and is wondering, should I try?
I mean... Depending on the idea, I suppose. Right. But would you ever say to anybody who had a dream, "Oh no, don't do that"?
Right.
Of course, it's be willing to commit to it, of course, and be tenacious about it. And this really, this project took tons of tenacity and tons of patience, but it also. I think that the thing about having a dream is to not, at least for me, to not be too locked into what you think the outcome is going to be, because it will be different.
Right.
Not better, not worse necessarily, but just different than the way you imagine the experience of doing it, the amount of time, what the finished product is going to look like. It's going to be different, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But go down that river.
Yeah, go down that river. And finally, what has it meant to you in your life to have this project, in addition to the other things that you do?
Well, I grew up devouring books like this. My collection of theater books is massive, and I used to just pore over this stuff, or go to the library and pore over these kinds of books. So for me to have added to the canon for other people, other 11-year-olds and 12 and 13-year-olds like me, and I don't want to imply that this book is merely for 11 and 12 and 13-year-old little gay boys, but sure.
But that is a sweet spot. That's a sweet spot.
But it means a tremendous amount to me to be able to continue to hopefully anyway add to the material that will continue to inspire and excite people about this genre, musical theater, which has meant so much to me, and to celebrate it.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I'm proud of you. You're crushing it, and people should pick up these books. They won't fit in a stocking, but you can buy all three of them and make a big. It could be that.
They'll fit in a nylon stocking.
Yeah, that's right. It was stretchy stocking. Thank you so much, Eddie. Congrats on the book.
It's my pleasure.
Yay. Thanks again to Eddie Shapiro. Pick up his book wherever you get your books. Here's to the ladies. The music theater lover in your life will love it. And why not get all three, like a package deal? All right, now let's talk to Dudley Beene. He's the man behind Studley Duds, Caftans, and I just love when you have a friend that's like, I'm going to go into a caftan business. Okay. And he's crushing it. Let's talk to Dudley. Joining me now from Los Angeles, it's my friend Dudley Beene. He's the founder of Studley Duds, caftans, and other accessories. You're expanding, I've noticed. Yes. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Honored to be here.
So you started a caftan company. What inspired that?
Well, when you open a business, they say to look for the white space, an area that just isn't being fulfilled. And with more and more friends throwing caftan parties and looking for, fun loungewear, I just saw there was sort of an opening for a reasonably priced, outrageous, irreverent caftan company. And I chose to fill that void.
It's not just for Helen Roper anymore.
No.
I know, because I was invited to one of those once, and you go online, and those caftans are expensive. You're like, yeah. So I thank you for stepping in and saving the day.
Thank you. You can certainly get some super scratchy ones, and you can get some super elegant ones. I want to hit that mid ground that feels great and is kind of a showstopper when you walk into a pool party.
Do you like wearing them? Before you started this business, was that a thing like, I like this? What do you like about it? The flowing air, the comfort?
It's certainly, I do a really high cut one. So we were in Palm Springs during a very hot day, and that wind just goes through there and cools you off. But I think what I love is it's a giant canvas.
Yeah.
You know, a shirt, you've got a seam in the middle of pants. A caftan is just a big piece of fabric, a huge canvas that you can put something fun and iconic on.
Yeah.
And so I've always loved that element of it.
Well, let's talk about some of these designs. You have a Dolly Parton caftan, which is enchanting, as it would need to be for Dolly.
Yeah, I took four eras of Dolly. I've got the Porter Wagner, I've got the 9 to 5, the crossover albums, and then Dolly of Today.
Dolly of Today. And she's still giving you dollies. She's giving us Dallas Cowgirl cheerleaders a week ago.
Now I need to revive it with Bare Midriff and Sparkles Dolly.
Yes. You've got the Golden Girls, which is a classic. When you're picking faces of the Golden Girls, how much work is that? Like when you decide what's the rose face going to look like? What's your process?
Yeah. Well, I work with a very talented illustrator on that one. And I kind of tell them what I want, but I wanted something that was flattering, yet still looked like the character. It seems like everywhere I look, it's either something that looks like a Nagel version of the Golden Girls or something that just looks a little creepy. And so I think they nailed these are the people in their most flattering light. But I got a great one of Betty White with her head back laughing. I have B. Arthur giving you that smirk and stare.
Right.
So, yes. And a little flirt from Blanche Devereaux.
You have a hunky bear on your Ooh Honey caftan, right? That's honey-themed bear shirtless. It's sexy. I'm into it.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's funny, you mentioned the three. I've just broken out into doing tote bags just because I'm all about unisex, unisize, things that everyone can use and wear. And so I have a new tote bag that is 2 foot wide by 17 inches deep. So it holds a lot of stuff. But those are the three that I said, people need these for sexy beach times.
For sure. What's your bestseller, may I ask?
I'd say, it's been Dolly because I've had it the longest. Yeah. But I have a couple of other fun ones. There's one that has cocktail recipes that gets drunk as it goes down. So things get slurred and cocktails get tipped over and, you run out of stuff. So it just says, scotchy, scotch, and pancake syrup. But that one actually is done really well as well.
Now, Studley Duds is relatively new. Have you been out and about and seen somebody in your in a Studley Dud and like not known them and just like a random stranger?
Oh yes, I was on a cruise and I saw 2 people wearing them, and I didn't want to be pompous and just say, "Hey." Oh,
I would have ran right over. I would have been like, "We're going to be friends now." Like I would have just I would have bugged them for sure. But that's cool.
I came over and said, "Hey, you look great in these things." First, to make sure that they enjoyed it. And they said, they get lots of compliments, and I said, "Oh, well, that's my company," and gave them a little discount code and a little love. But it's great. In Palm Springs when we were selling it, people actually ran over and said, "Oh, this is where they came from. I took a picture of somebody at this party wearing one, and I was wondering where it was." So that's a real delight. That is a true warm fuzzy.
As somebody that started a new business, what was something that you learned that was like, what was a tougher lesson to learn, or like one of your more challenging things that you had to overcome?
Oh, it's, marketing is just such a huge thing when you're starting out a business, and it's going to be slow going. You have your moments where you're at the right place at the right time, Palm Springs, DragCon, things like this, where you're just selling and you're like, I'm in the land of milk and honey. And then you go through a long dead period. Right. And you have to keep pushing, keep marketing, and not get down about that.
Yeah, I can relate to that with our game. When we created You Don't Know My Life, I remember the day that the shipment came in and the truck showed up, and it was just so thrilling. Did you have moments like that with the shipment coming in, or where you're like, oh my God, this is really happening?
You've seen something in your head, you've refined it, because as you did with the design and me with the pattern making, it's all theoretical until it's in your hand, and you have that moment where you open it up and you feel the fabric or the card or whatever it is for the first time, and you're like, oh, this is great. this feels luxe. This is real. And it's also the knowledge that you're in the same echelon as Milton Bradley. I'm in the same echelon as Talbot's. Of some designer, and that's cool to know that power is in all our hands to really create the same kind of thing that you buy in a store.
What's your favorite part of the whole process?
Definitely coming up with the patterns for me. I'm just very visual. I'm a designer by nature. I know my limitations. There's one that I am proud to say I've done from the ground up, which was a bunch of old wig ads and taking those and putting my favorite drag queen names on them, like Shanita Quit or Carne Asada. But that's all me. But the other ones, you get these pieces of, Blanche or Rose. And then how do you incorporate it? How do you represent that banana leaf wallpaper that we all know so well and make it into something that's going to be flattering as well? And I love that part of the process.
I love watching your social media because I know a lot of your friends and I see them in the caftans. What has it meant to you to sort of see your people kind of rally around and support your vision? And every time I see, oh, there they are. And there's something sweet about it, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I realized I have a lot of good looking friends. So that's been great.
That's handy. It's really handy. Yeah. Yeah.
But more so, that's great for the marketing, but more so when I see people just having a great time, or even better, when they're being complimented in them. And I'm not saying that as a compliment to me because I came up with the design, just that I've made something that they feel great in, that they look great in, and are getting noticed in that attention. That makes me proud that they're having that experience, and I'm a part of that in some way.
Yeah, it's a unique thing. There's a hot dude in a Dolly Parton caftan. Okay, that's you don't see that every day.
Go say hi to somebody in a Dolly Parton caftan. I swear they got a story.
What would you say to somebody that has an idea for something like this and is like, oh, should I try to do it? I don't know. It sounds hard. Maybe it'll be cool. What would you say to somebody that has an idea and is deciding whether or not to try?
It's like all things. Do you really want to do it? If you're saying, it's going to be hard, I don't know, like that. No, it's not for you. That's okay. Not everything's for you.
Right.
I'm not meant to be a pastry chef, but if you are, no, I really think I could do this. It's been an incredible learning process. It's going to take a lot of it. You're going to have to talk to a lot of people who've done it before and just hear them pour out their heart. But it can be done. That's what I'd say. First decide how passionate you are about doing it. And if you are, it can be done. And it is such a cool learning process and such a feeling of achievement when you get something like this produced.
What have you learned about yourself doing this?
That's a good question. I've learned that I don't know a lot about business, and that's been a big thing.
Right.
I know a lot about creation and invention, and marketing is what I do for a living, but the actual business side of it, I didn't know. So I've been learning a lot about that. As far as who I am as a person, I guess just the ability that if you really have your heart in something, there's very little you can't achieve. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be a huge success at it, but whatever you do, if your goal is just to have a competent piece out there, whether it be an actor, writer, a creator, somebody who builds a product, if you have your heart in, you can actualize and realize that dream.
I love that. All right. Your website is Studley Duds. Studley is D-L-E-Y, like Dudley, studleyduds.com.
Yes.
And they do fit in stockings. You could stuff stockings with several caftans.
Yeah. We have a tote bag. You can do a turducken of gifting. You can put your caftan in the tote bag.
This is your first Christmas. This is your first Christmas, isn't it? Wow.
It is.
So exciting. Final question. What has it meant to you in your life to have this? Because I know you said you have another job, but you have a main job. What has it meant to you to do this on the side?
I mean, it's been a new passion. And honestly, the parts that I've enjoyed the most is working some of these festivals, some of these prides, and just connecting to real people and seeing them really like something that I created. I assume it's what it's like to have art at an art gallery and have people come by, except unlike one piece of art that you have and maybe it sells and you never see it again, I get to enjoy that experience again and again. And so that's been a really great feeling.
I love it. All right. Thank you, Dudley. And I will talk to you soon.
I appreciate it.
All right. It wouldn't be Christmas without some cookies. So let's talk to the man who turned his pandemic hobby into a sweet little side hustle. This is Patrick Marks from Cookie Patch. Joining me now from Los Angeles, it's Patrick Marks, the founder of Cookie Patch Cookies. Welcome to the podcast, Patrick.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm so glad we're finally getting together and doing this.
I know. Well, I saw your Instagram and I'm like, those cookies are incredible. I wonder where he bought them. And then you're like, no, that he's making those cookies. You're making these cookies, these incredible decorative sugar cookies with all kinds of different designs. I mean, you're supporting the SAG strike. You're doing Cinderella dresses, the Academy Museum. So how did Cookie Patch come to be?
Okay. It's so funny that we're talking about this today because it all came out of COVID. And let me just start by saying I've never made a cookie before in my life. I've never decorated cookies. So this all started in 2020 after a 10-year relationship that we broke up, and I moved into an apartment in September. It was amicable. We're still friends. But every year at Paramount, which is where I work, that's my daytime job, I work there. There's a tree lighting event that we have for family and friends, and there's about 1,000 people there. And every year they have amazing desserts. They have like these sugar cookies. And every year I look forward to these sugar cookies because I love decorated sugar cookies. And so last night was our tree lighting. So I got to taste them again. And I think mine are better. But what came of it was in 2020, we were all working from home. We weren't going into the office. And they sent out an email saying that they were canceling the Christmas party this year, which we all knew it was going to be canceled. And my first thought was, oh my God, we're not going to have the tree lighting. How sad. It's so special and magical. And then my second thought was, oh my God, I'm not going to have those sugar cookies.
Yeah.
And then I thought, where am I going to get sugar cookies?
I need my fix. You got to have those sugar cookies.
Yeah. And let me tell you, you can go to Starbucks, right? And and I think Victor Bennis has some, Sweet Lady Jane, but only at certain times of the year. Anyway, I'm like, I'm going to make them. Like, I'm going to figure out how to make them. And I went on YouTube and I followed this woman who did this tutorial, and I just started taking notes. And I'm like, I think I can do this. Like, how hard can it be? You just make the dough and this and that. And then I went down this rabbit hole of like, well, now I've got to get a stand mixer. So I went to Target, and this is all like during COVID, masking, we were social distancing. I don't know if you remember in the store, it was like there were arrows of certain aisles you can go down one way and not the other way. I mean, it was just like craziness. And here I am like running around Target trying to get baking goods to start baking sugar cookies and seeing if I could do it. So that's how it all started.
Wow, because one of my questions that I wrote down was, did you know you were going to be this good at it? And you didn't know anything. It wasn't like, oh, I've dabbled in this and now I'm going to really go global. You just were starting from zero.
Yeah, started from zero, really YouTube. I followed this woman on there and she did this step-by-step tutorial. And I mean, my first cookies, they were horrible. I mean, the frosting, I mean, there were all these terms I had to learn too, like flooding a cookie and piping and, all these different tools that they use. And I just was like, I was alone, I was thinking, I can figure this out. And here's the thing. I loved to draw when I was a kid. So this is where my creativity as a kid and all through life, I love to draw and doodle. So that's where that creativity came through. I'm like, oh, I love drawing and I love creating cartoon characters and stuff like that. So it like married both those worlds, which I didn't even know was in the back of my mind somewhere for years and years and years.
Well, your handwriting on the cookies is amazing. The block letters, the cursive, the versatility, like that, you cannot teach that. That is something you either have a gift for or you don't, and you have one, clearly.
Yeah. It's funny you're saying that because the woman that I followed, it was the first YouTube video I found. I'm like, I looked up decorated sugar cookies. Her video came up. She was decorating cookies with a friend of hers. And then I started following her on Instagram. Her name it's Sugar Cookies by Steph. And it's a woman. She lives in Utah. And I was following
all
her,
the best cookie makers live in Utah, by the way. Mrs. Fields, like it's a thing. Yeah.
A friend of mine who is from Utah, he's like, oh, that's a big thing out there, like decorated sugar cookies. It's a whole big cookie business, like for missionaries and for the whole thing. They make cookies. But this woman, I would follow her on Instagram, and she would always post stories and stuff like that. And she was doing this thing which I've never done because I have like 10 followers. You may have done it before, but it's where they post like Ask Me Anything, right? So she posted this Ask Me Anything, and all these people who follow her were asking her questions. And so I'm watching this story, and one of the questions was, is your grandfather really Charles Schultz? And I was like, wait, what? And I'm like, Charles Schultz, like who created Peanuts?
Yeah.
And so she answers, yes, my grandfather's Charles M. Schultz, and we grew up with the Peanuts and this and that. And I was like, oh, no wonder I love this woman's aesthetic, because I love Charlie Brown. I love the Peanuts. You know, it's that block lettering that you said. And she is like a descendant of him and has like this creativity and the same kind of style. So I kind of mimic her. But, you know, that's where I got it from. And that's, you know, the block lettering. And that all came from when I was a kid of drawing Charlie Brown and Snoopy and writing the writing like Charles M. Schultz does.
And I noticed you have a Snoopy apron. Very good.
I do a Snoopy apron.
I would feel like the first thing you need to do is make sure that cookies taste good. The basic sugar cookie. How hard was it to find that sweet spot, to coin a phrase?
That's a good question too. It's so funny. I feel bad. I was thinking about this last night. I'm like, why didn't I send Dennis cookies beforehand so you could at least taste them and vouch for it? But I'll send you.
I'm going to pretend that I'm eating one right now. Delicious.
I know. Aren't they good?
So delicious.
But here's the thing. They really are good. Like,
you have to, if they don't taste good, it's kind of a bummer. Like they've got to taste good, right?
I just went to an event recently and they were giving sugar cookies out. And I tried one and I'm like, these are really bad. The first thing I do when I go to parties like that, like I'll see, like, I'm like, oh, why didn't they ask me? And then, you know, my friend's like, there's 500 people here. I'm like, oh, that's right. I'm not going to make 500 cookies. Right. I'm in my tiny little kitchen. But it was trial and error. But this woman's cookie recipe, which she put online, which I followed and kind of doctored in my own way and used different ingredients, it seemed to work. And hers was really good. And then I just kind of adapted it to my own style. And the good thing about my recipe is that you don't have to, most sugar cookie recipes, I didn't know this again until I started like researching. You have to make the dough and you have to put it in the refrigerator for like a couple hours or overnight or whatever. I'm like, I don't have time for that. And mine, you can make the dough, you can roll it out, and you can make the cookies the same day, the same time. So it's like, it's great.
You're breaking the rules. You're also a renegade. You're really disrupting this industry.
There's this whole world. There's cookiers, which I didn't even know that was a term. There's Cookie Con that they have every year. I've never been.
Amazing.
Oh yeah. It's this whole subculture world of cookiers. And now like Food Network has, you know, the great, you know, the cookie challenge shows.
You should go on there. Have you thought about it?
I have. My friends are pushing me. So.
Yeah, you should do it. I hope that you become a real cookie snob. So if you go out to an event and you taste a cookie and you're like, bleh! Like you literally like make a huge scene, and that becomes your kind of.
I think
persona.
I should do that at Cookie Con. Yeah.
Yeah. Just go down the row and just vomit.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a saga involving sugar cookies and why I have so much respect for you. So my birthday was a few months ago, and I was doing a Pretty in Pink screening thing, and I was like, I'm going to make cassette cookies. First of all, I thought I'm going to get Patrick to make cassette cookies, but I think you were traveling or whatever, so I was like, I can do this. I ordered the cookie cutter, and it was so cute, and I watched a YouTube video. Long story short, I could not do it. The thing got stuck in the thing. Like, it was a disaster. Right. I could not make one cookie. I'm like, everyone's getting circles with pink on it, and that's it. And also, I realized that even if I had been good at it, the patience that it would take to do those cookies, line by line, word by word, do you find it sort of meditative? Like, I feel like it's very work intensive.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is intensive. Now I'm the only one that does it. So when I've got like, I've learned that my limit is 100, for an order. Like I can't do any more. Like I did one for a school that I partner with, that's in South Central, and it was like 250 to 300, and I was done. But, I won't do that again, unfortunately, but it's meditative for me. It's like really like I'm creating, which is great. And that's my creative outlet. And, I put on Sirius XM on Broadway. I listen to Broadway show tunes or, whatever else I want to listen to, but usually Broadway show tunes. And I just sit there and I decorate, and it is time consuming. And that's the thing, because friends of mine have been like, hey, you should find a space. Like you should open up your own bakery. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Like I have two friends in LA that have amazing cookie shops. One is Milk Jar Cookies. The other is Brady's Bakery. But what they're doing is like drop cookies, right? So you're dropping cookies on a tray, like chocolate chip. You're baking them. Mine are like, I gotta cut them out. I gotta make the dough, cut them out, right? And then I've got to bake them, and then they have to dry overnight. So that's one day. And then I have to, frost them with flooding, and that has to dry before I can put top layers on it. I mean,
they're works of art.
3 or 4 days. Yeah. Yeah.
And the designs that you've done on your Instagram are so enchanting, so versatile. What is your masterpiece? What is the one where you're like, you know what, I kind of crushed that?
It's so funny. Every time somebody gives me an order to do, I'm like, what can I do? And what have I seen on Pinterest that I can do? There was a gay pride one that I did for a friend of mine in Palm Springs who had a party out there. And it was like this effect of like, and it was Palm Springs gay pride. So I'm like, I'm going to do a palm tree. And then underneath the palm tree, like on the cookie, I did a rainbow, like a streak of it underneath. And then over top, I did this rainbow. It's on my Instagram. You can see it. I just thought those were the coolest cookies. I'm like, this is so cool. It's like Palm Springs. It's gay pride. It marries the two together. But that's just one that comes to mind. But I don't know. My very first cookies I did, those are special to me. The ones that I felt good enough about to post. But there's some really good ones out there. There's some ones I'm not happy with them, but the people love them. And that's the thing that I love the most. Like it brings so much joy to people. I love that. Like I really just love being able to bring people joy through cookies.
Have you done any famous Hollywood people? Because I know you did like Academy Museum pictures and cookies.
It's the way I started making them, and somebody sent me a tweet from Mindy Kaling. She's like, hey, are there any great local LA cookie bakers out there? And they're like, you should respond. So I responded to her, and I'm like, and I was just starting out, and I'm like, listen, here's my Instagram. And she's like, oh my God, these are great. And she never got back to me, but she found someone. So that was an almost.
That was an almost, but also almost Mindy Kaling. You know what? I've got a bug in my ass about her, and so I thought you might turn me around, but.
Are you glad I didn't do them for it? Well, no, she didn't.
It didn't work out. Didn't work out. You know what?
It validates what your thoughts.
She's on her own path. I like her work. It's all good.
So I do have two. Like Jonathan Bennett is a good friend, and I did cookies for him.
Mean Girls.
Bears.
Yep.
What?
Mean Girls from Mean Girls. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love it.
So.
And did you say there was another one?
Beth Bears.
Beth Bears. I know the name, but I'm trying to think what she's from. She's from one of those Breaking Bad or something.
Two Broke Girls.
Oh, right on. Love it. Yay.
The neighborhood. Yeah.
What's the part of it that you're like, oh, I don't like this part?
The part I don't like is when I have an order of like the same thing, like it's like for a school and it's like one cookie and it's 100 and I'm just doing the same thing over and over again, like 100 of them.
Yeah.
And I look over at the trays and I'm like, oh my God, I've finished one tray and I've got like 10 more to go. And it's very defeating, but it's very rewarding when I do the last one. But I'm not that creative when it comes to those special orders that are just one thing that's the same. Yeah.
I like when you do like a theme, like these cookies go together and there's an assortment, but they're part of the same theme. Yeah. It's really beautiful. How can people order? Like you can't buy them. You can't just order a bunch. You would have to do a special order, right? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a special order. Like this time of year, what I try to do, because so many people are asking, like I come up with 4 designs and then that's what I make. And then I'm like, these are the designs I can do. It's hard to do like if somebody's like, oh, well, I have a birthday on, the 15th of December. So, but you can order, it's all done through Instagram. Like people reach out to me and then I get back to them via email, but it's all done through Cookie Patch too.
On Instagram.
The Instagram, yeah. And people reach out to me and then we just start talking on the phone and collaborating and seeing what they want and what I can do. And I have one client it's a back and forth every year to do his, and I love it. I love it because he's so involved and it's like, he gives me ideas like, what about if we do this here and do that there? And I'm like, I love it. Okay, let's try it. So yeah, they can order directly through Instagram.
I love that. And do you charge by the cookie? How does that work?
Yeah, I charge. It's like $4.50 a cookie.
Yeah,
is my going rate. And sometimes if there's bulk, we'll give a discount. Yeah.
But those cookies are works of art. Do you find that people don't eat them and they put them in baggies and put them and display them?
I have a friend who I just ran into her at a going away party, and she said, I still have that cookie in my freezer. I'm like, you do? I'm like, that was from like 2021. She's like, I know. I just love it. It's so special. It was for her grandson's birth. So, yeah.
How many cookie cutters do you have?
I have, I've never counted, but I have them. I have enough now that I have to categorize them and put them in different, like I've got letters, I've got numbers in one, I've got apparel in one,
right.
I've got food. So they're all categorized, but quite a bit. Probably like 250, I'd say.
Wow. Have you ever made porny dirty? Have you really gone blue with any of your designs?
I haven't yet. Nobody's asked me, and I wish they would. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to manifest that for you in 2024. Maybe like a Palm Springs Pig Weekend Cookie Fest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bear Fest.
Yes. All of it.
Yeah. IML. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Are you worried that Ozempic is going to cut into your demand? That nobody's eating anything anymore?
Listen, I have friends who are on Ozempic who are eating my cookies. So
there you go. That says something right there.
Right?
Your cookies can burst through the Ozempic indifference to food. Yeah. What has it meant to you in your life to have discovered this outlet?
I mean, it really was. It came out of, I thought a 10-year relationship ending, and that was, difficult. And it was really being alone and being quiet and being by myself and worrying about what will that look like and what will that be. And out of that came, this gift that I have of making these cookies and creating and drawing. And it tapped into something that I'd forgotten about for years, which was drawing and my love of drawing, my love of creating, and this really gave me that outlet. And I'm just so grateful for it.
Would you encourage other people that have ideas like that to kind of go for it? Did it kind of empower you to be like, yeah, do that thing?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the books I read was from Ellen Marie Bennett. I don't know if you know, she created Headley and Bennett, which is an apron company. If you watch any Food Network show, you see that ampersand that's on the aprons, and that's the one that I wore, the Snoopy one that's in my picture. But she wrote a book. I have it in front of me here. It's Dream First, Details Later. And it's about her story of, working in restaurants and working with these aprons that were really crappy and shitty. And she, created her own. It was like going around all these different restaurants and selling them. And now she's got this huge business based out of LA, which is amazing. And it's incredible. And this book, if anyone's trying to start a career or do something different, I highly recommend this book. I mean, it really helped me. I'm not ready to quit my day job and open up a bakery. This is all still a side hustle for me. But, there's going to come a time when I'm done with that. And I would love to pursue this full time and bring more people on and encourage other people. I think, if the pandemic's taught us nothing, at least for me, there's these silver linings. I mean, this is truly one of them, which is I have more business. People are knocking on my door. I did turn away business. I've never wanted to turn away business. And it's just I just don't have the bandwidth. It's just me.
Here's my final question. What have you learned about yourself through this odyssey?
I've learned that I can make a pretty damn good cookie. Like, and I've learned that it's like, wow, I didn't even know I had this in me. And,
like really good. Like I'm looking at the pictures going, he is crushing this.
Yeah. I every time I get a new design or something, I'm like, I love doing it. And I'm like, and every time I send it to someone, I'm like, I really had so much fun. Thank you so much for allowing me to make those. And I'm like, oh my God, thanks for making them. And I'm like, no, you really you pushed me to try something new. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think I could do that. Or somebody will give me something crazy to do. And I'm like, yeah, I just say yes. Like that's, I think what I've learned, just say yes and then figure it out later.
Love it. Thank you so much for talking to me, and congrats on your amazing cookies.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to get you some. I'm going to get some.
I love it. Thanks again to Patrick Marks and all my guests on the Holiday Gift Guide episode, Michael DeMartino, Eddie Shapiro, and Dudley Beene. All right, so this happened. I went country dancing last night for the first time in years. I used to really love it. A friend of mine named Michael Arnold, who I haven't talked to in decades, at least a decade, we've been back in touch, texting, and hey, do you want to go country dancing? I used to know him from Oil Can Harry's, and so we found this thing on Instagram called Stud Country, and it's like gay country and Western dancing that they do in different cities around the country, and they're doing it in Los Angeles on, I think, 2 nights a week at this place called La Bahia in Silver Lake, and we just decided, let's do it. We're old. We're like, we'll take a disco nap. We'll figure it out. I went to spinning class before like a crazy person. So I go to spinning class. I come home, I shower. I have these boots that were not mine, but were passed down to me from a friend. So I'm like, I'm going to wear these boots. But I took sneakers just in case they were killing me. Well, I get there. It's in a pretty sketchy area. It's a little dark around there, a little scary to park. There was some glass windows broken out on some cars I'd seen. But, I get in there. First of all, the boots are killing me. I don't think I'm going to make it with these boots. I find Michael. I haven't seen him in so long. It's so good to see him. This place is magical. There are so many people country dancing. They are serious about their line dancing. Younger people, I'm just so heartened to see the younger generation of gay people taking up this mantle of country dancing, which was so fun for me when I was in my 30s and 40s and going to Oil Can Harry's all the time. And anyway, it was magic. I'm going to go back. We were both hooked, and there was a big mix of men and women, really diverse, younger, older, and just people having a blast. And I guess they teach 2 line dances, every night, so you can learn a new line dance. But the people that had been going for a long time, near the end of the night, they just started doing line dance after line dance after line dance. And these people knew them all. They knew every one of them. And you could tell it was kind of like their favorite thing, like the highlight of their week. And friendships were being made. And the space was kind of nice and bigger. I loved Oil Can Harry's, but the roof was kind of low. This was it felt bigger, and there was a lot of people there. It was a $20 cover. I'm like, what? Okay. But people were into it. And I am definitely going to go back. So there it is. My shit-kicking days are back, people. Stud Country. And you can follow it on Instagram. My friend Michael and I were like, this is so sweet. I can't believe, I'm so glad we did this. It was one of those things where you're kind of dragging your ass and do I feel like, and then you get there and you're like, this is amazing. So that's a lesson for life. Anyway, that's enough for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks again to all my guests. Go buy their stuff and stuffed stockings. Do all of the stuff. Before I let you go, I want to give a shout out to Oscar Ramirez for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Replacement Music. We'll catch you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye.